Section 30 of the Labor Act 11 of 2007. This section deals with termination of employment on notice. In terms of this section, subject to any provision of this part, meaning Part F, to the contrary, if a contract of employment may be terminated on notice, the period of notice must not be less than 1 day if the employee has been employed for 4 weeks or less. That notice must not be less than 1 week if the employee has been employed for more than 4 weeks but not more than 1 year. That notice must not be less than 1 month if the employee has been employed for more than 1 year. In terms of this section, an employer and an employee may agree to a longer notice period than required in terms of subsection 1, provided that it is of equal duration for both parties. This means that the employee and the employer may agree that because of the nature of our work, if you have to terminate this employment, then you need to give 2 months or 3 months notice, because the handover requires that we do it for 3 months or whatever the reason may be. But if that is their agreement that it's 3 months, then it means that when the employer decides to terminate that employment, then they give 3 months notice. And vice versa, if the employee decides to terminate, then they are obliged to give that 3 months notice. So subject to subsection 4, notice of termination must be given in writing, stating the reasons for the termination if the termination is by the employer and the date on which the notice is given, which may be on any working day in respect of an employee who is required to give 1 day notice, on or before the last working day of the week in respect of an employee who is obliged to give a 1 week notice, on the first day or the 15th day of the month in respect of an employee who is required to give a 1 month notice. So, despite subsection 3, which says that the notice must be in writing, an illiterate employee may give notice orally, meaning they can just do that orally if they are illiterate. An employer must not give notice of termination during any period of leave to which the employee is entitled in terms of Part D of this chapter, or to run concurrently with any such period of leave. Nothing in this section affects the right of a dismissed employee to dispute the lawfulness or fairness of the dismissal in terms of this act or any other law. So meaning just because a notice has been given doesn't mean that if the termination is unlawful, one cannot register a dispute for unfair dismissal. Nothing again in this section affects the right of the employer or an employee to terminate the contract of employment without notice for any cause recognized by law, or to make payment instead of notice in terms of section 31. So this is just to say, despite giving notice, if there is any reason recognized in law that allows you to actually terminate without notice, for example, this person is dangerous to the work environment or whatever it is, or the law provides that a certain offense that this person has committed requires that the employment terminates immediately without notice, then that person may exercise their right to terminate without giving notice. So again, nothing in this section prevents an employer or an employee from waiving any right to notice conferred by this section. So this is just to say that it's your right, you have it to notice. So if you as an employer feels that it's not necessary for the employee to serve a whole month notice for whatever reason, whether it's business secrecy, if this person is probably going to an organization that is competing with your organization, then you can tell your employee, listen, I know you have put in your notice, but you may go home. We are releasing you. We acknowledge your notice, and we are not going to treat you as though you have not served notice, but we are going to waive our right to notice in terms of subsection 7. Likewise, the employer, if the employee, if they feel that if the employer has terminated employment and they feel that it's not necessary for the employer to keep them on, then they may also say, it's fine, I know you have given me notice to at least work for an extra month, but I'm going to waive it and I'm not going to treat you as though you have not given me my notice. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of section 30. Let's discuss, let's engage in the comments on other social media platforms. Let's unpack this section, let's discuss, let's contribute. Thank you.